After Nash Jiang's first love passed away from cancer, he was overwhelmed with grief and committed suicide to follow her in death. I, frail as I was, carried him on my back and ran through the entire town late at night. I knocked on every door, kowtowing and begging for help until my face was covered in blood. Managing to save his life, this left a rugged, ugly scar on my forehead. From then on, he let go of his grudges and decided to live a good life with me. But later, he dreamed of his deceased first love, saying she was lonely and miserable underground. He couldn't sleep at night, dragged me to his first love's grave, and forced me to drink poison. It's all your fault that we can't be together. Since that's the case, you should go down and keep Lacey company for me. Only then did I realize that he had always resented me for causing his first love to miss the best treatment period. Reborn in this life, I'm tired and just want to live a different way, Jia. I'm begging you, Lacey is sick and needs a large sum of money for treatment now. Hearing the familiar voice, I opened my eyes. Ever since learning that my first love had cancer, my husband, who had disappeared for a week, suddenly returned home and knelt before me, pleading desperately. Watching Nash Jiang crying bitterly in front of me, I pretended to be puzzled and asked, "But where would I get the money?" Nash Jiang hesitated to speak, his eyes darting first toward the dressing table in the room. "Gold hairpin. Yes, selling the gold hairpin will give us money." Hearing the exact same words from my previous life, I couldn't help but sneer and curl my lips. "You mean, you want to sell my dowry to pay for another woman's medical treatment, Nash Jiang? How do you have the nerve to say such a thing?" The man in front of me suddenly changed his expression. He probably didn't expect that someone as timid as me would dare to confront him directly. "Jia, saving a life is more meritorious than building a 7-story pagoda. I beg you, I can't lose Lacey, even if I owe you. Once Lacey recovers, I'll go to the provincial capital to work and redeem your hairpin for you." Nash Jiang panicked and immediately knelt in front of me, kowtowing, blow after blow, until blood seeped from his head. He still refused to give up. For the first time, he pleaded with me so humbly, just as I had clutched at his pant leg begging him before my death in my previous life. At this moment, the scene before my eyes overlapped with the one from my death in the previous life. "It's all my fault, Nash Jiang. I don't want to die. I beg you, save me." The next second, Nash Jiang's voice pulled me back to reality. "Since you're so eager to save her, then figure it out yourself. Anyway, I won't sell this gold hairpin." After saying that, I strode back into the room and hid the gold hairpin on my person. Unlike the previous life where, after hesitation, it was given to him, the hairpin never returned until the moment of death. Impossible. Lacey won't die. Lacey is still alive. She's still alive. Another month later, at Lacey Xie's Memorial Hall, Nash Jiang held her portrait, howling with heart-wrenching grief, crying until he was drenched in tears. However, the other people who came to attend the funeral looked at me with increasingly strange expressions. His legitimate wife was clearly standing right there, yet he was crying his heart out over the death of another woman. The aunt beside me pulled me aside. Man, go quickly and persuade Nash Jiang. No matter what his relationship with Lacey was before, she ended up marrying someone else. It's so inappropriate for him to cry like this at her memorial hall." I glanced up and saw that Lacey Xie's in-laws all looked displeased, especially Lacey Xie's husband, whose face was darker than the bottom of a pot. He has always been bothered by the old relationship between Lacey Xie and Nash Jiang, and now his eyes are filled with rage, watching the scene before me. I pressed my lips together tightly. I shook my head. "Auntie, it's not that I don't want to persuade him, but you know, Nash Jiang doesn't listen to me. I've always been an indecisive person. In my previous life, just because my parents said, 'The Jiang family is well off, you'll live a comfortable life if you marry into it,' so I nodded and agreed to marry Nash Jiang. Although there was no strong emotional foundation between us, we treated each other with respect. It wasn't until a year after the marriage, when a woman named Lacey Xie from the same town got cancer, that I realized my husband Nash Jiang had always had someone else in his heart. Lacey Xie was orphaned and had 5 younger siblings to care for. The Jiang family feared that marrying her would mean having to support a whole group of dependents, so they stubbornly refused to agree to the match, afraid that the two would continue their entanglement. The Jiang parents hastily found a matchmaker to introduce Nash Jiang to another partner, me. The town was conservative, and Lacey Xie and Nash Jiang had caused quite a scandal back then. unable to marry Nash Jiang. Lacey Xie's reputation was ruined, and she ended up marrying a lame man. The lame man's family was poor. To save more food for her younger siblings, she starved herself until she fell ill. Lacey Xie's husband's family couldn't afford her medical treatment. When Nash Jiang found out, he used his salary to take her to the provincial capital for treatment. Treating stomach cancer requires a lot of money, and Nash Jiang's salary wasn't enough. Which is why he came up with the idea of going home to borrow money from me. In this lifetime, I didn't give him the hairpin. He took advantage of the night when the family was asleep and stole a large sum of the family's payment to keep Lacey Xie alive. In just a week, Lacey Xie didn't make it and passed away. The money was spent, the illness was treated, and the family ended up with a huge debt as a result. His mother-in-law was so angry with him that she had a stroke. Yet he couldn't even bring himself to call a doctor. I never expected that Nash Jiang could be so desperate. Seeing everyone discussing animatedly, I stepped forward and pulled Nash Jiang up. Don't let Lacey Xie be disturbed even in death. Let's go home. As soon as the words were spoken, a sharp slap echoed through the funeral hall. The previously noisy place immediately fell silent, and everyone's gaze fixed on my face. Nash Jiang, with reddened eyes, roared at me, "Get out of here. You have no right to say that. If it weren't for you repeatedly obstructing me from saving Lacey, she wouldn't have died at all." The swelling pain on my cheek left me speechless for a moment. Nash Jiang glared at me fiercely, as if I were his father's murderer. "Lacey is dead, you must be thrilled, right? After all, no one will compete with you anymore, but I advise you to give up. Even if Lacey Xie is dead, I won't live on alone." After he said this, the mourners began to murmur again. I heard someone sneer. This Nash Jiang is truly a hopeless romantic, actually wanting to die for someone else's wife. The experiences of my past life had long since left me disheartened. I no longer cared about Nash Jiang's attitude toward me, but I wasn't willing to take this slap for nothing. The next second, I slapped him with all my might. A hand that works all year round is no less strong than a man's. With one slap, I left Nash Jiang dazed and confused, standing on the moral high ground in front of everyone. I scolded him loudly. "This slap is for Mom and Dad. You may have been fair to Lacey Xie, but you've let down the parents who worked so hard to raise you." After saying this, I quietly stepped back from the crowd. After all, he doesn't have long to live. What's the use of arguing too much with the dead? The moment I left the mourning hall, sharp screams suddenly erupted behind me. "Help! Someone's dead! Someone! Come quick! Nash Jiang has committed suicide." Someone rushed out and grabbed me. "Jiayun, you need to go in and see. Your husband just suddenly pulled out a knife and slit his wrist. There's a lot of blood." I curled my lips coldly. "Is that so? What does that have to do with me?" That person gave me a reproachful look and muttered under their breath, "What a strange couple. One dying for another man's wife, the other not caring when her own husband kills himself." Another person grabbed him. Birds of a feather flock together. But let it be for now. Finding help to save lives is more urgent. In his previous life, after Nash Jiang's first love, Lacey Xie, died, he caused a scene at the memorial hall, insisting on dying for love. The moment he pulled out a knife, I caught the blade with my hand and forcefully stopped him. Later, the cut healed but left a scar that never fully recovered. Every time the humid season returned, the wound would ache faintly. The last time he attempted suicide, he took poison in the middle of the night while I was asleep. Using my frail body, I carried him and knocked on the doors of every doctor in town, kowtowing and begging for help at each house until my forehead was bruised and bleeding, just to save his life. Later, another rugged, ugly scar was left on my forehead. And ever since, I've always worn bangs that don't quite suit me. Everyone praises him for his good fortune, saying he married a wife who loves him as much as her own life. He finally let go of his grudges and worked with me to build a stable family. But later, he dreamed that Lacey Xie appeared to him in a dream, weeping about how lonely and miserable she was in the underworld. He couldn't sleep night after night. He actually dragged me to Lacey Xie's grave, pried open my mouth, and forced me to drink a bottle of pesticide. Before I died, I heard his venomous voice, "If you had agreed to sell the gold hairpin earlier, Lacey would never have died. Since you've been stopping me from reuniting with Lacey, you can go and keep her company in my place." I never imagined that the husband I cherished so much would send me to my death with his own hands, all because of an absurd dream. I never expected that no matter what I do, it would all be in vain. Since fate has given me a chance to be reborn, I no longer wish to live for him. In this life, I only want to live my own life well. In the end, Nash Jiang didn't manage to die. Just like in his previous life, he shut himself in his room for 3 days, clutching an old photo of Lacey Xie. 3 days later, Lacey Xie's funeral was held. Nash Jiang, dragging his weakened body, insisted on attending the ceremony. During the funeral, he insisted on standing at the front to carry the coffin, refusing to move no matter who tried to pull him away. In our local custom, if the deceased is married, the one who stands at the front to carry the coffin must be the surviving spouse of the deceased. Having not slept for 3 days and not had a drop of water, his lips were pale, his eye sockets dark, and his eyes filled with sorrow and exhaustion. Nash Jiang's fingers trembled as he used his sleeve to wipe the dust off the coffin. Bit by bit, "Lacey, don't be afraid, I'll be with you soon." Lacey Xie's husband finally couldn't hold back. "Lacey is my wife, please show some self-respect." Nash Jiang frowned, glanced at the man's lame leg, and a cold smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. With reddened eyes, he asked, "With a leg like that, how can you escort Lacey on her final journey? What if she gets hurt? Besides, if it weren't for my parents' disapproval back then, Lacey Xie and I would have been married long ago. What does it have to do with you?" The man asked with a dark expression. "What happened back then is in the past. You're married now. Have you considered your wife in all this?" "I only acknowledge Lacey." Hearing him mention me, a barely noticeable look of disgust flashed in Nash Jiang's eyes. "You," the man clenched his fists tightly, on the verge of exploding. "In my previous life, it was I who appeared in time to block that punch for him. The 4-month-old baby in my womb was brutally beaten out, and afterward, I could never get pregnant again, in this life without me." Nash Jiang couldn't dodge in time and took the punch head-on. The slap mark on his left cheek hadn't faded yet, and now his right cheek took a punch, making it symmetrical. The man's forehead veins bulged, and he raised his fist to strike Nash Jiang again. Weak and defenseless, Nash had no way to fight back. He was pinned to the ground and beaten like a quail. As he hit him, the man said, "Earlier, I let it slide because you were taking Lacey Xie for treatment, but you just keep pushing your luck." Nash Jiang spat out a mouthful of blood and said, "If you had treated Lacey better, she wouldn't have gotten this illness. It's all your fault." The man laughed recklessly. "Then why didn't you marry her back then? Lacey Xie is my woman. How I treat her is none of your business." As soon as he finished speaking, Nash Jiang's older brother, Jiang Shu, hurried over to mediate, pulling his brother aside and apologizing. "Look at the state of our family, and you're still here making a scene. Get yourself home. Don't embarrass me here." "Erqiang, I apologize on his behalf. You've already hit him, so you should have let go of your anger by now." The man named Erqiang immediately put on an apologetic smile and waved his hand upon seeing Jiang Shu, indicating that the matter was over. Nash Jiang was still defiant but was dragged away by his brother, "To ensure the safety of myself and the child in my womb, I called my brother-in-law that night Lacey Xie died to inform him of the situation at home." Jiang Shu, who was in the military, learned that something had happened at home and immediately rushed back from another province. Jiang Shu angrily scolded, "For the sake of a woman, you almost dragged the whole family down with you." After learning that Lacey Xie was ill, Nash Jiang stole the factory's funds intended for purchasing raw materials to raise money for her treatment. The large order that had been placed was put on hold due to the lack of funds to buy raw materials, forcing the father-in-law to take out a high-interest loan to keep things afloat. Now, in order to repay the exorbitant interest, he, at 60 years old, is still running around outside borrowing money to pay off his debts. My mother-in-law was so angry about this that she had a stroke, but there's no extra money to hire a doctor for treatment, and she doesn't dare tell her hot-tempered eldest son. And I know, the only person in this family who can control Nash Jiang is this eldest brother. Moreover, the eldest brother, Jiang Shu, is also the only sensible one in the family. Elder brother Jiang Shu joined the army at the age of 16 and became a battalion commander in his 20s. Known for his decisive and unyielding personality, back then, it was him who prevented Nash Jiang from marrying Lacey Xie. Nash Jiang is very afraid of this eldest brother. Don't even mention you all. If I could bring Lacey back to life, I'd trade the whole world for her. You have no idea what Lacey means to me. For the first time, Nash Jiang mustered the courage to talk back to his elder brother. Jiang Shu, seeing his brother's stubbornness, was furious. "You've brought so much trouble to the family over a woman, and I haven't even held it against you yet. How dare you yell at me? If I don't teach you a lesson today, it's only because I'm in a good mood." He took a willow branch from the ground, tied Nash Jiang's hands, and hung him from a tree. Seeing this, I quickly waddled over from behind the tree, my belly protruding. "Bro, you can't do this, someone could die. Don't worry, I know how to hold back, no one will die." Jiang Shu's eyes burned with anger. That Nash Jiang, the damn kid, doesn't care about his parents, and now he doesn't even care about his own woman. What a fool. Nash Jiang, who had kept his eyes closed all this time, suddenly opened them. She brought it upon herself. She deserved it. Voluntary. Serves you right. I've lost count of how many times I've heard these words from Nash Jiang's mouth. Nash Jiang said through gritted teeth, "If it weren't for her back then, Lacey Sierra and I would have been together long ago. She wouldn't have suffered. And she wouldn't have gotten sick. Tell me, if it's not Jia Yun's fault, whose is it? Yes, just because I followed my parents' arrangement and married him." In Nash Jiang's eyes, I became the most shameless woman in the world. To this day, he still hasn't realized that Lacey Sierra was killed by this cruel world and by his own hypocritical self. Back then, Jiang Shu did give him a choice. But the one who had sworn he would marry no one but Lacey Sierra ultimately couldn't let go of his comfortable, pampered life at home. To the outside world, he claimed that his parents had threatened to take their own lives to force him into marrying me. He ended up gaining a reputation for being filial, but he brought nothing but suffering to both Lacey Sierra and me. After saying this, he caught sight of me standing behind Jiang Shu. I knew it. How could my brother suddenly rush back? It must be you who tipped him off. Jia Yun, you are truly vicious. Won't you even allow me to quietly see Lacey off one last time? In my past life, I always believed that as long as I tried hard enough, I could warm Nash Jiang's heart, so I was filial to my in-laws. Managed the household for him, and no matter how he treated me, I never spoke a single ill word about him in front of others. Even though Nash Jiang wanted to save Lacey Sierra and I verbally disagreed, I spent a whole week tossing and turning over it, and in the end, I gave him the golden hairpin. I never cared about getting anything in return. My wish has always been simple. I just hoped that one day Nash Jiang would see my worth, but until the day I died, Nash Jiang never saw it. Before I could even speak, Jiang Shu sneered and said, "Back then, I was the one who stopped you from marrying Lacey Sierra. Are you still going to blame me for her death?" Nash Jiang stubbornly turned his head away. "I didn't." Jiang Shu raised the willow branch high. "You did, and you still say you didn't." Then, his cries of pain echoed through the woods. I stroked my belly and said nothing more to persuade them. Having been reborn, what I truly want is not to clear up misunderstandings with Nash Jiang and reconcile with him. What I want is to completely break free from Nash Jiang. From beginning to end, Nash Jiang was tied up and taken back home by his older brother. Seeing her younger son beaten black and blue, the mother-in-law lying in bed couldn't help but ask, "What happened this time? Why is Shua back too?" Since her stroke, she can't handle any shocks. So I didn't dare tell her about Nash Jiang's scene at the funeral hall. Jiang Shu threw Nash Jiang back into his room and turned to confront his mother. "How could you not inform me about something this big?" In just a few sentences, he revealed everything that had happened to Nash Jiang over the past 2 days. Her mother-in-law was so enraged that she started coughing violently. "That unfilial son, he won't be satisfied until he's driven me to my grave. It's all my fault. If I had stopped him from taking the money back then, our family wouldn't have ended up like this." I wiped away my tears. The eldest brother slammed the enamel cup on the table. "This has nothing to do with you. It's our parents' fault for not raising him properly. If only I had taken him into the military to be disciplined back then, he wouldn't have turned into such a scoundrel." My mother-in-law spoke somewhat guiltily. "I was afraid he couldn't handle the hardship back then. But you still shouldn't have beaten him like this." Nash Jiang is the child of their later years, and his grandparents have always spoiled him excessively. In my previous life, no matter how he treated me, my in-laws would only scold him verbally and never disciplined him, which eventually led Nash Jiang to take extreme measures against me. Seeing how furious her eldest son was, the grandmother turned and said, "Blame me, this old woman. If I had known this troublemaker would grow up to be like this, I should have strangled him the moment he was born. Hearing the conversation inside the room, Nash Jiang gritted his teeth through the wall and said, "Don't blame anyone. I'll end my own life soon anyway, with Lacey gone. There's no point in me living in this world." Upon hearing her youngest son's words, the mother-in-law's emotions, which had just calmed down, surged up again, her eyes rolled back, and she fainted. Every move Nash Jiang made at the funeral today was exaggerated and sensationalized. The town is small, and any family matter can spread throughout the entire town in less than half a day. Jiang Shu carried his mother-in-law out to borrow a tricycle, then pedaled furiously to take her to the town's health clinic. For a time, the Jiang family's series of messy affairs became the gossip of everyone's after-dinner conversations. And I was the main focus of their gossip. Some said I was pitiful, that my husband didn't take me seriously. Others said I was thick-skinned, claiming that if they were publicly humiliated by their husbands, they would have hanged themselves long ago. There's no helping it. In this feudal era, men are the heavens for women. No matter what a man does, it's always the woman's fault. In my past life, I saw these words as a terrifying threat, besides the torment from Nash Jiang. Their gossip was like a dull knife, grinding back and forth in my heart, causing me just as much pain. Having experienced the tragic end of my previous life, I've long understood in this life that no matter how vicious these words are, they can't harm me in the slightest. I just let them go in one ear and out the other. I was just about to go check on my mother-in-law when, as soon as I stepped out, a few neighbors gathered around me, chattering away, advising me to endure what I could. Whose life isn't lived this way? Men. They always want what they don't have. Luckily, that woman Nash Jiang was seeing is gone now. Your good days are ahead. Breaking from my usual meekness, I lost my temper. Have you sorted out your own affairs before meddling in others? What? Do none of you have anything better to do? Seeing that I wasn't someone to be trifled with, the gossipy women scattered like birds and beasts. The convenience store at the entrance sent someone to call me. Gia, your family is on the phone. Hearing this, I immediately rushed to the shop. I really wanted to tell my mother about the hardships I endured in my past life, how much I suffered and how many difficulties I faced. "Mom," I called out softly to the other end. "Sweetheart, I've heard everything. That good-for-nothing Nash Jiang. What kind of mess has he gotten into?" I thought my mother would understand me, but to my surprise, her next words were, "But there's nothing we can do. You're already married, so you'll just have to endure and make the best of it." My mother's words left me feeling as if I had fallen into an ice cellar. I couldn't accept it. "Mom, I want to divorce Nash Jiang. He doesn't love me at all. What's all this talk about love? Your father and I made it through just fine like this. As long as you can get by, that's enough," my mother said impatiently. I hung up the phone and went to the clinic. My brother-in-law, Jiang Shu, told me that my mother-in-law was fine. My brother-in-law was considerate and said that I looked worn out, and it must have been days since I had a good night's sleep. Since I had finally made it back home, I should do my part in showing filial piety. I counted on my fingers, calculating the days. Suddenly it occurred to me that in the previous life, Nash Jiang drank pesticide on this very night. I deliberately dawdled on my way home. Nash Jiang was locked in his room by his elder brother and was currently trying to figure out how to break the lock from inside. Hearing the sound in the yard, he knew it was me and said without hesitation, "Jia Yun, open the door quickly. I want to go see Lacey. Today is the first day of her burial. And I want to be by her grave. She's so afraid of the dark, lying alone in that small coffin, buried in the mountains. The sounds of animals at night will surely scare her," mentioning Lacey Xie. His tone immediately softened again. "It's all my fault. How could I leave her alone in the mountains?" I turned a deaf ear and went straight into the room to rest. Nash Jiang broke down in the room, losing control. "Jia Yun, you did that on purpose. Fine. Since you won't even let me see her after she's dead, I'll die too. Even in death, Lacey and I will be together." I deliberately provoked him. "Then go die. What's the use of just shouting, if you dare to die? I might even respect you as a man. Great, you can't wait for me to die, can you, Jia Yun? Do you have someone else outside, just waiting for me to die so you can openly cheat?" Nash Jiang spread rumors in a fit of anger. Yes, your beloved WN is waiting for you down there," I said. Nash Jiang was successfully provoked by me. "Fine, I'll grant your wish. Lacey, Don't be afraid, I'll come find you tonight. His words seemed as if they were meant for me, of course. I also knew that Nash Jiang's talk of wanting to die was just empty words. The cut on his wrist from the funeral wasn't as deep as the one I accidentally made while chopping vegetables. After he said that, the noise in the room disappeared. I also went back to my room to rest and paid no more attention to him. I've always been a light sleeper. In the middle of the night, I heard a muffled groan coming from Nash Jiang's room and immediately focused my attention. In my previous life, after hearing this sound, I was worried that something had happened to Nash Jiang and immediately went to his room to check on him. Unexpectedly, I happened to catch him just after he had drunk pesticide. In the early hours of the morning, not a single clinic or health center was open. To save him, I used my frail body to carry the 6-foot-tall Nash Jiang, walking all over the town and knocking on every doctor's door upon learning that he had ingested pesticide. Most doctors felt it was beyond saving and were unwilling to help. I went door to door, kowtowing and begging for help, until finally, an elderly traditional Chinese doctor over 70 years old agreed to give it a try. I forced medicine down Nash Jiang's throat to make him vomit. Fortunately, Nash Jiang was tough. After daybreak, I took him to the county for a checkup, and he was indeed fine. In this life, upon hearing the sound, I turned over and went back to sleep, as if on purpose to wake me. Nash Jiang kept letting out painful moans. I was so annoyed by the noise that I went to check on him. Nash Jiang had drunk pesticide, writhing in agony and rolling on the ground. Seeing me, he still spoke harshly. "Get lost, don't bother me, I'll be seeing Lacey soon." I glanced at the pesticide bottle on the ground. TSK, no wonder he hadn't died yet after all this time. Judging by the small amount, Nash Jiang had at most taken a sip. Moreover, this pesticide isn't paraquat, it's not that lethal. With the amount he took, he could roll around for 3 days and nights and still might not die. I simply pried his mouth open. "Don't you want to die? Here, drink more so you can see your WN sister." The liquid flowed from the corner of Nash Jiang's mouth to the ground. He pushed me away forcefully and vomited, clutching his throat. "Jia Yun, you poisonous woman, are you trying to murder your own husband?" Leaning against the door, I said in confusion, "Ever since Lacey Xie died, you've been clamoring to kill yourself. I'm just giving you a helping hand. How is it my fault again?" Nash Jiang glared at me and continued to vomit, gagging. When he was almost done vomiting, he leaned against the door, gasping for air, but moments later, the sharp pain in his stomach made him break out in a cold sweat all over. Nash Jiang panicked. "Quick, take me to the clinic." I leisurely cracked my knuckles. I say, "It's the middle of the night. Why don't you stop making a scene? If you're going to die, can't you just do it quietly? Doctors don't sleep. Who has time to save you?" As soon as he finished speaking, Nash Jiang spat out a mouthful of blood. Now he was truly scared. "Jia, I was wrong. I don't want to die. Please save me. There's no turning back when you're seeking death. You're going to break Lacey Xie's heart in the afterlife," I said sarcastically. Just as I turned to leave, a sudden noise came from outside the door. "Jia, Mom had an accident and needs me to come back right away to find her a change of clothes. I couldn't find any." It's the voice of Big Brother Jiang Shu. His appearance disrupted everything. Looking at Nash Jiang on the ground, I knew something was terribly wrong. I immediately picked him up and rushed outside, shouting, "Bro, it's bad. Nash Jiang took poison to kill himself." Hearing my words, Jiang Shu spat. "This lunatic, he really can't let anyone have a peaceful day." Then, without hesitation, I took Nash Jiang and ran out of the house. At this moment, Nash Jiang had passed out from abdominal pain and the violent jolting. Jiang Shu thought Nash Jiang was beyond saving and ran even faster. He knocked on the door of a clinic. "Doctor, help, my brother drank pesticide." The sleepy-eyed doctor rubbed his eyes impatiently. "What kind of pesticide? It seems like it's paraquat," I deliberately added. "There's no saving him. Take him back and prepare for the funeral arrangements." After saying this, the doctor directly closed the clinic door. It was the first time I saw Jiang Shu soften his tone. He continued knocking on the door. "Doctor, my brother is still so young. Please, I beg you to save him." The light in the room went out, and there was no further movement. Jiang Shu continued to carry Nash Jiang. "No. Let's try another place." Every place after that was the same. In this lifetime, Without me kneeling and begging for help, no doctor was willing to take the risk. On top of that, they knew Nash Jiang had drunk paraquat, a poison that even Hua Tuor, the legendary healer, couldn't save someone from with just a drop. No one was willing to bring trouble upon themselves. Frustrated and rebuffed, Jiang Shu couldn't help but curse angrily. What kind of doctors are these people? There's no other way. We'll have to wait until daybreak to take him to the county hospital for further examination. Tonight, it's up to him to pull through. At the break of dawn, Jiang Shu borrowed a car and took me and Nash Jiang to the county town for further examination. The test results came out quickly. Due to the toxicity of the pesticide, the large amount he consumed, and the prolonged delay, his organs had already begun to fail. The doctor shook his head helplessly. Even if Hua Tuor were alive today, it would be useless. Jiang Shu asked him tremblingly, "How much time is left?" "Less than a week," the doctor said with regret. "So young, what could have been so troubling?" Hearing this news, I thought I would be sad, but my heart felt no ripple of emotion. I just felt that I was finally going to be free. It was then that I realized, perhaps I never loved Nash Jiang. Everything I did in my past life was perhaps just an effort to play the role of a good wife. In the hospital room, Nash Jiang finally woke up. Meanwhile, his elder brother, Jiang Shu, held his head high, the tough man doing his best to hold back his tears. "How could you be so foolish? If you died, what would mom and dad do? They can't take any more shocks. And what about Jia? What will happen to her?" Nash Jiang gave a bleak smile. Without Lacey, I don't even want to live another day. As for anyone else, I simply don't care, at this moment. Nash Jiang did not know that the process of organ failure was rapid. Although he seems fine now, in a few days, his body will wither like a flower deprived of nutrients. The next second, he caught sight of me, and displeasure colored his face. "What's the matter? Not too happy to see I'm still alive, are you?" Hearing Nash Jiang's words, Jiang Shu said angrily, "Enough. Why do you always have to target Jia at every turn? She is your wife." Nash Jiang curled his lips into a cold smile. "Wife? She killed my Lacey. If she had agreed to sell her dowry to treat Lacey, she might still have been saved. In the previous life, he blamed me for selling the dowry too late. In this life, he blames me for not agreeing to let him sell the dowry. Anyway, Lacey Xia's death is all my fault," Jiang Shu said mockingly. "How dare you say that? What does Lacey Xia have to do with you? Is it your place to save her? Besides, if you wanted to save someone, you should have figured it out yourself. How dare you use your wife's dowry to save another woman? That's pretty shameless." Nash Jiang, scolded by his older brother like this, couldn't help but blush. What's the big deal? There were extenuating circumstances, and I promised I'd redeem the dowry for her later. Jiang Shu clenched his fists tightly. "Not everyone is as foolish as you. Lacey Xia has stomach cancer. It's terminal." Nash Jiang was stunned into silence for a long moment. Jiang Shu added, "Did you know that Jia is already 4 months pregnant with your child? In my past life, I never got the chance to tell him I was pregnant before the child was aborted. Afterward, when Nash Jiang learned the news, he only blamed me for failing to protect the child, and he hated me even more for it." He slowly turned to look at me, only to see the mist in my eyes. Recalling the experiences of my past life, I gritted my teeth, tears welling up, and turned my back. Not wanting anyone to see me in such a wretched state, getting the answer, Nash Jiang was stunned. "Then how did she didn't have time to tell you," Jiang Shu sighed. "Given that she's pregnant, any grudges or resentment should be set aside." Nash Jiang's eyes suddenly froze, and he stood there speechless in a daze. The next second, he clutched his abdomen and vomited a large amount of blood. The doctors and nurses rushed over and shook their heads. Nash Jiang looked at his brother Jiang Shu in disbelief, who turned away with tears. Only then did Nash Jiang realize that he didn't have much time left to live. He asked me to stay behind to say a few words alone. The hospital room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Nash Jiang and I looked at each other face to face, and he finally spoke. "I'm sorry. I didn't know you were pregnant." I smiled bitterly and said, "It doesn't matter anymore." I suddenly remembered that on our wedding night, Nash Jiang promised to treat me well for the rest of his life. During our honeymoon, we were as inseparable as honey and oil. I thought I would be happy from then on. It wasn't until later, when Lacey Xia fell seriously ill and he was completely preoccupied with her, that I realized Nash Jiang had never let go of Lacey Xie. Nash Jiang suddenly broke down in tears. I'm sorry, I was wrong, I was truly wrong, I regret it, I don't want to die, I want to see the child be born, can you save me? Nash Jiang's condition grew worse with each passing day. At first, he just had a stomachache, then he started vomiting everything he ate. And in the end, he couldn't even get out of bed. His mother-in-law almost fainted from the shock, but for the sake of her son, she managed to pull through. In the last few days, Jiang Shu called me out of the hospital room. Jia, it's our Jiang family that has wronged you. Once Nash Jiang is gone, don't hold on to him anymore, find a suitable man and live a good life. On the surface, I refused, but in my heart, I thought the day had finally come. Nash Jiang keenly overheard the conversation outside the room, his eyes blazing with fury. I won't allow it. Jia Yun is my woman, even if I die, she can't marry anyone else. Now, he was like a walking corpse, barely able to get up, and no one took his words seriously. Jiang Shu even stated outright, don't mind him, I'm the one in charge of this family. Seeing that no one was paying him any attention, Nash Jiang set aside his pride and pleaded with me desperately, Jia, please don't leave me, you're all I have. And there's our child. This is my flesh and blood. He can't call someone else dad. I pried his fingers off one by one and whispered softly into his ear, go in peace, once you're gone. I'll finally be free. If it weren't for the fact that saliva could drown a person, I would have already abandoned him and left. Do you hate me that much? Nash Jiang asked in disbelief. I remembered that in my previous life, just before I died, I had asked Nash Jiang the same question. He answered me, hate. I hate you especially. Now I've returned that sentence to him. On that final day, Nash Jiang was barely holding on, with only his last breath left, in his last moments of life. He stared at the ceiling, lost in thought. The Jiang family stood by the door, wiping away their tears. Nash Jiang struggled to lift his head and look at me, parting his lips to signal me to come closer. His lips trembled, and after a long while, he mumbled indistinctly, I don't want to die, Jia. I'm so scared, I whispered in his ear. Don't be afraid, Lacey Xie is already waiting for you down there. You'll see him soon. He looked out the window, and his pupils began to rapidly dilate. With his last breath, he struggled to press his hand against my lower abdomen and murmured to my belly, Child, I'm sorry for you and your mother. I left him with my final words, Nash Jiang, in the next life, and the one after that, let's never meet again. On the day of Nash Jiang's funeral, a light rain fell from the sky. Jiang Shu ultimately fulfilled his wish, burying him near Lacey Xie. Unfortunately, that very night, a bolt of lightning struck and split his grave open. Later, after I gave birth to the child, I negotiated with my brother-in-law and decided to leave the Jiang family with the child. Even though my in-laws tried every means to stop us, my sensible brother-in-law saw through it. If the child were left in their care, it would be ruined. To protect his late brother's posthumous child, Jiang Shu ultimately agreed to my request. The condition I agreed to with him was that the child would still carry the Jiang surname and would return to acknowledge his roots when he grew up. I knew that, as a woman with no background, it would be difficult for me to provide a prosperous life for the child on my own. My parents said I was still young and could still marry well. They started arranging blind dates for me again. A state factory worker with a child, an old widower who lost his wife, one late night. I took the money from the Jiang family, carrying the gold hairpin my grandmother gave me, and boarded the train to the provincial capital. With that money, I settled into a new home in the provincial capital and, with the help of my elder brother-in-law, opened a clothing store, starting a new life. From then on, the sky was high and the sea was wide, letting me fly freely. The end. That concludes the first story. Stay tuned. The next one is even more exciting. I have been married to Qin Xuejing for 3 years, but everyone knows that the person Captain Qin cares about the most is not his wife Lin Shu, but his dear sister Rong Qiaoling. Even when I was deliberately pushed into the river by Rong Qiaoling, he would only advise me to be more tolerant. Qiaoling's parents saved my life, and now she's all alone, so naturally I need to care for her more. You are my wife, you should understand me. Besides, she didn't do it on purpose. Can't you be a little more forgiving? Later, I had a high fever and miscarried, and my heart finally turned cold. That year, in 1982, looking at the transfer order for secret scientific research in the northern frontier, I resolutely picked up my pen and signed, agreed, December 8, 1982. Inside the military hospital, Sister Lin, the baby, wasn't saved. Seeing the hesitant expression on Nurse Xiaofang's face, I could roughly guess what had happened. But when I took that medical record and saw the black and white words patient confirmed miscarriage, I couldn't help but suppress a heart-wrenching sob. The child is gone. I have been married to Qin Xuejing for 3 years, and only heaven knows how much I have longed for this child. The moment Rong Qiaoling pushed me into the river, I was almost crying and begging Qin Xuejing to save me. But he didn't. He just glanced at me and then swam straight to Rong Qiaoling. At that moment, my heart was colder than the river water. Seeing me cry so sadly, Xiaofang couldn't help but comfort me, saying, "Sister Linshu, don't be too upset, you just got over your fever, so you need to rest more. You and Commander Qin will have children in the future, there won't be any more." I lowered my eyes and silently replied in my heart, "Because Qin Xuejing and I have no future together, I want a divorce." Xiaofang had just left when the door of the ward was forcefully pushed open. Standing at the door was the furious Qin Xuejing, who strode toward me. Without any explanation, he immediately started hurling accusations. I said, "Lin Shu, are you insane? Qiaoling only said a few words to you, and you tried to push her into the river. She has been frail since childhood. It's just a minor weakness, and now I don't even know how long it will take to recover fully." I looked at Qin Xuejing, the disappointment in my eyes completely unconcealed. "I didn't push her, Qin Xuejing. You are my husband, and I am your lawfully wedded wife. Do you believe me, or do you believe her?" My gaze seemed to sting Qin Xuejing, and he turned his head away, changing the subject. "Qiaoling's parents saved me. Now that she's all alone, it's only natural for me to care for her more. You're my wife, you should understand me." It was the same old story I'd heard countless times before, whenever Rong Qiaoling caused trouble for me. Qin Xuejing would always urge me to be tolerant and magnanimous. I turned my back to him, the resistance in my gesture unmistakable. Qin Xuejing noticed that something was off with me, but he only sighed and offered no comfort. "Can't you be a little more generous? Forget it. I still need to go take care of Qiaoling. This is the porridge I made for you. You've caught a cold too, so have some." The aroma of millet porose wafted from the insulated container, a scent Rong Qiaoling loved most. Even the care Qin Xuejing showed me was just a casual gesture. He put down the items, turned around, and left without hesitation, as if I were merely a colleague rather than his wife. I smiled bitterly, mustered my strength to get out of bed, picked up the insulated container, and without a second thought, tossed it into the trash can. Then, from the cloth bag I carried by the bedside, I pulled out a secret research transfer order to Xinjiang, which the chief had given me 2 days earlier. Once the application is approved, I will be immediately transferred to northern Xinjiang for secret research. The return date is uncertain, perhaps 7 or 8 years, or perhaps a lifetime. On the day I found out about the child, I hesitated. Now, I pick up the pen and resolutely sign the transfer order. Lin Shu agreed. "Xiao Lin, it's really tough on you to set off right after being discharged from the hospital, but the mission requires it, and we leave in 5 days." As I walked out of the office, the leader's words still echoed faintly in my ears. "We will depart early on the 15th. The transfer order was urgent, giving me almost no time to say goodbye. But then again, after my parents passed away 2 years ago, the only person closely connected to me was Qin Xuejing. There was really nothing for us to say goodbye about. Once I had some free time at home, I started packing my luggage. I am dedicated to my research and have very few personal belongings. Occasionally, I buy a couple of new clothes, but only because Qin Xuejing saw the fabric Rong Qiaoling was wearing and had 2 outfits made for me. There are also over a dozen love letters Qin Xuejing wrote to me when he was pursuing me. Back then, they made my heart flutter, but now reading them only feels ironic and bitter. But I didn't take any of it, not even the wedding photos. I stuffed everything into cardboard boxes and left them in the corner of the yard, ready to be thrown away. Just as I was almost done cleaning up, there was a noise at the door. I was a bit surprised that Qin Xuejing would actually leave the hospital and come home with Rong Qiaoling. But it's just as well, the matter of divorce should be set aside for a proper discussion. But as soon as I opened the door, It was Rong Xiaoling's face I saw, her innocent smile twisted into a smug expression upon seeing me. Lin Shu, so you're home after all. Brother Xuejing was worried that it would be inconvenient for me to live alone, so he brought me to your place to make it easier to take care of me. Sister Lin Shu, you wouldn't mind, would you? Before I could respond, Rong Xiaoling took it upon herself to step inside the house. Behind her, Qin Xuejing also showed a rare hint of embarrassment and said to me apologetically, "You're out of the hospital, why didn't you tell me? I could have picked you up," about what happened earlier. "I misunderstood you. I heard from the guards that it was Xiaoling who accidentally bumped into you and made you fall, but she didn't do it on purpose, she fell into the water too, so don't hold it against her." After falling into the water, Xiaoling kept complaining about headaches and dizziness. I was worried something might happen to her if she stayed home alone, that's why I thought. Before Qin Xuejing could say a few more words to me, Rong Xiaoling inside the room started making a fuss. Shouting loudly, "Brother Xuejing, come quickly, this bed is so beautiful, can I sleep here?" It was Rong Xiaoling who took a liking to it. "This is the wedding bed for me and Qin Xuejing." To be honest, only Qin Xuejing would consider Rong Xiaoling's personality as naive and unworldly. But now that he's making such an offensive request, he should have gotten a hint of it. Qin Xuejing frowned tightly, he naturally understood the significance of the wedding bed. He immediately dismissed Rong Xiaoling's request, while carefully observing my expression. "Xiaoling, this is my and Lin Shu's wedding bed, you can sleep in the room next door, it's quite nice too." Rong Xiaoling had rarely been refused by Qin Xuejing, especially in front of me. How could she be willing to give up? Rong Xiaoling immediately showed a hint of grievance, tugging at Qin Xuejing's sleeve and pitifully saying, "I'm sorry, Brother Xuejing. I just couldn't help myself when I saw something so beautiful. My parents passed away early, and I haven't slept in such a nice bed for a long time." Qin Xuejing, as he had countless times before, softened and turned his gaze toward me. I shook my head and smiled disdainfully. In the past, such a scene would have broken my heart, and I would have argued fiercely with Qin Xuejing. But now, as the two of them put on this coordinated performance in front of me, I just found it boring. With a cold glance at the wedding bed, I turned and walked away. "Whatever, I have things to do, I'm heading back to the institute first, and I won't be coming back tonight." Qin Xuejing chased after a few steps, not knowing what Rong Xiaoling said behind him, and eventually stopped. He just shouted from afar, toward my figure, "Xiaoshu, don't be angry, I'll pick you up from work tomorrow." Angry? I'm not angry anymore, I don't love you anymore, so why should I care about that marriage bed? Today is December 11th, 1982, I have 4 more days until I can leave, and I just want to go. The next day after work, I saw Qin Xuejing waiting at the door. Remembering that the divorce papers in my bag still hadn't been given to him, I ultimately went up to greet. He walked towards me with a smile, carrying quite a few things in his hands. "Xiaoshu, don't go to the cafeteria today. I got my meat ration coupons for this month. I'll cook you a nice meal at home, let's go in a bit and I'll take you to get 2 sets of clothes made. The previous incidents were all my fault, please don't be angry anymore." Deputy Zhong's wife is an obstetrician, yet she keeps saying that holding in anger is bad for a woman's health, and it's not good for the child either. "Aren't you the one who loves children the most?" Seeing the radiant expression on Qin Xuejing's face when he mentioned children, my heart ached as if pierced by needles. Tears welled up uncontrollably in her eyes as she glared at Qin Xuejing with a face full of resentment, unable to hold back from shouting at him. "How dare you bring up the child? Do you even know, Sister Lin Shu? Oh, please don't be angry." Rong Xiaoling suddenly appeared out of nowhere and began to speak incessantly. "For your sake, Brother Xuejing wouldn't let me sleep in your wedding bed no matter what. In the end, I had to sleep in that old bed next door, wooden bed, it's hard and not comfortable at all, it's supposed to be mediation." But the words are filled with complaints. Qin Xuejing couldn't help but feel a twinge of apology towards Rong Xiaoling. "Sorry, that was the wedding bed, that's why I... Next time, I'll bring you some candy as compensation." Rong Xiaoling immediately seized the opportunity and chimed in. "Brother Xuejing, don't wait until next time. I heard you've prepared a lot of good stuff. Let me join you for a meal." Okay, a meal meant as an apology between a couple ended up being shared by 3 people. Qin Xuejing was busy in the kitchen, and the first to speak was Rong Xiaoling beside her. Without Qin Shuijing around, she no longer hid her fangs, tooth. Lin Shu, don't pretend to be magnanimous to fool people, you're actually furious, aren't you? Let me tell you, as long as if I don't divorce Brother Shuijing, I will pester you every day. My parents have been kind to Brother Shuijing, and he will never abandon me in this lifetime. I responded with an without much emotion. To be honest, these matters have nothing to do with me now. I just want to give the divorce papers to Qin Shuijing as soon as possible and make things clear. Parting early brings mutual relief. For me, for Qin Shuijing, and even for Rong Qiaoling, it's all good. I don't know which part of my attitude touched Rong Qiaoling's sensitive nerve, but she instead thought I was looking down on her and sneered as she approached. I pressed further. What are you humming about? Do you also look down on me for being an orphan, just like everyone else, all these years in the military district? No matter how well I did, you, Lin Shu, always managed to outshine me, even my only beloved, Shuijing. You had to snatch away. I'm telling you, don't get too smug. You won't always get your way in everything. As soon as the words were spoken, Rong Qiaoling picked up the boiling water from the stove and poured it over her own arm. The scream was deafening, followed by Rong Qiaoling collapsed to the ground, crying and accusing me. Brother Shuijing, save me. Sister Lin Shu is trying to scald me to death with boiling water. Amid the chaos, Qin Shuijing pushed me aside, picked up Rong Qiaoling, and rushed to the hospital. Rong Qiaoling lay weakly in his arms. I never expected that Rong Qiaoling would go to such lengths to win over Qin Shuijing. Then I should leave even sooner. Go apologize to Qiaoling, Qin Shuijing said with a cold expression, forcefully pulling me toward Rong Qiaoling's hospital bed. It's not something I did, and I won't apologize. Qin Shuijing gripped my wrist tightly and roared, there were only two of you at the scene. If it wasn't you, who else could it be? I looked at the man with a ferocious expression in front of me and felt an overwhelming sense of unfamiliarity. Taking a deep breath, I said, at the time of the river incident, I asked you, now I'm asking you one last time, Qin Shuijing, do you believe me, or do you believe her? Qin Shuijing fell into a long silence, then quietly tucked Rong Qiaoling's quilt and said in a deep voice, I only believe what I see. The answer is clear, he didn't believe me. Years of marriage ultimately couldn't withstand the sibling bond between him and Rong Qiaoling. My tears fell straight down as I suppressed the metallic taste of blood rising in my throat. In that moment, it felt even more painful than when I had the miscarriage. I forced myself to gather my strength, wanting to finish the last of my tasks. No matter what you think, I didn't do what I didn't do, and I will never bow my head to apologize. He pointed at me angrily, then lowered his hand. Fine, let's get everything out in the open today. I pulled the divorce agreement out of my bag. There are some other matters I'd like to discuss with you privately. Just then, Rong Qiaoling on the bed let out a timely groan of pain, which made Qin Shuijing's heart ache. He immediately stood up, pushed me away from the sickbed, and said angrily, the facts are right in front of us. What is there to explain? If you don't apologize, I won't listen to another word from you. With a loud slam, the wooden door of the hospital room separated us. Qin Shuijing stayed by Rong Qiaoling's bedside all the way until evening and didn't return home. On December 13th, I tried to explain, but Qin Shuijing called me cold-blooded. You are simply a cold-blooded and vicious monster. Qiaoling is in such a state. And you're still making excuses. Lin Shu, have you had enough, or not? On December 14th, I tried to discuss divorce, but Qin Shuijing drove me away. Unless you apologize, I don't even want to look at you. Leave. I'm busy taking care of Qiaoling. December 15th, Qin Shuijing no longer wanted to see me. I waited unwillingly at the door of the ward. I waited until my body froze, until I was completely numb, until the car driver behind me urged, it's time to catch the train. I couldn't wait any longer. I had to go. The train whistle sounded at the station. In the end, I never got to see Qin Shuijing again, and nothing was left behind. Except for the divorce agreement and the miscarriage medical records on the table. On December 16th, Qin Shuijing felt an inexplicable unease that made him restless, because Lin Shu didn't continue to bother him today, just out of the hospital gate. Qin Shuijing saw his deputy officer Zhong talking to his wife, Ju Li, who worked in the obstetrics department of the military hospital. The doctor is also a classmate of Lin Shu. The thought of Lin Shu always brings a mix of emotions to Qin Shuijing's heart. He vaguely felt that there was something suspicious about this matter, but Rong Xiaoling was still lying in the hospital after all. After much thought, he still couldn't figure it out. What should I do? As soon as Julie saw Qin Xuejing, she burst into laughter and said excitedly, Regiment Commander Qin, Lin Shu is already 2 months pregnant. You're about to become a father, so why do you still look so gloomy, father? Just 2 short words struck Qin Xuejing, leaving him frozen in place. Qin Xuejing widened his eyes in disbelief, as if it took him a long time to find his trembling voice. Lin Shu, she, is pregnant. Julie's smile faltered, and she said in surprise, you still don't know, it happened on the 8th. But then again, the first 2 months of pregnancy are the most unstable. Sister Lin Shu probably didn't tell you because she was worried. Qin Xuejing was completely overwhelmed by this sudden joy. He couldn't even wait for Julie to finish her sentence. Grinning foolishly, let out a couple of chuckles, and hurriedly rushed home after saying sorry. Today is Sunday, Lin Shu should be at home. Qin Xuejing jogged all the way, grinning foolishly and dazedly. His heart was filled with both joy and guilt, and he muttered under his breath, Lin Shu is pregnant. I'm going to be a dad. I'm a dad now. The 8th. That must be the day she fell into the water. I wonder if she has recovered well and if the pregnancy is stable. It's all my fault. During that time, I was so preoccupied with thinking about Xiaoling that I forgot to take good care of Lin Shu. Especially during this period, I need to go back and apologize to her properly. Why be so stubborn about pride? Pride is nothing compared to my wife. Lin Shu is not that kind of person. There must be some misunderstanding. We'll clear it up when I talk to her later. Qin Xuejing muttered to himself all the way home, then pushed the door open excitedly. But this time, he did not see Lin Shu. Panic surged in his heart once again, and Qin Xuejing immediately felt a sense of foreboding. He anxiously scanned the courtyard and the bedroom but saw no one, so he could only shout Lin Shu's name. He desperately hoped to hear that familiar voice respond to him once more, but there was only a room of silence. Lin Shu, Lin Shu, Lin. Qin Xuejing suddenly stopped speaking. His gaze stiffened as he saw the abortion medical record on the table. Due to prolonged immersion in water, the patient has developed a persistent high fever and a lung infection. There is already significant bleeding from the lower body and severe abdominal pain. The patient has been confirmed to have had a miscarriage. Qin Xuejing held the thin medical record, feeling as if his entire body was sinking heavily, with intense pain spreading to every part of his limbs. The pain was so overwhelming that he could barely stand. He recalled the scene of Lin Shu falling into the river that day. Her frail body was submerged in the icy water, her delicate face filled with panic as she tearfully cried for help, but he did not respond. He simply watched coldly, and then personally caused the death of his own child. Qin Xuejing pulled out that medical record, and the divorce agreement underneath suddenly caught his eye. In that instant, countless emotions churned Qin Xuejing's heart into a chaotic mess. Pain, sorrow, regret, remorse, like a 1,000-pound stone pressing on his chest, making it hard to breathe. It forced Qin Xuejing's legs to go weak, and he collapsed to the ground in an instant. No, he and Lin Shu, it can't just end like this. He must find Lin Shu, whether to apologize, to confess, or even to beg for forgiveness. He must find Lin Shu. Qin Xuejing struggled to get up and staggered toward the door. You've come. Xiao Qin, the head of the institute, seemed to have anticipated it, and upon seeing Qin Xuejing barging in recklessly, he merely looked up and greeted him. Chief, do you know where Lin Shu went? We had an argument. The chief's attitude was not friendly, and he coldly interrupted Qin Xuejing's words. An argument, Xiao Qin. I'm afraid you've misunderstood. Xiao Lin's meaning is divorce. Qin Xuejing immediately denied it, saying, No, Chief, I don't want a divorce. I know that during this period, I've done many things that have let Lin Shu down, but I realize my mistake now, and I promise I will treat Lin Shu well from now on. I beg you, please tell me where Lin Shu is. Qin Xuejing's anxiety and remorse were unmistakably genuine. The chief, seeing this, could only let out a long sigh and shake his head, saying, I really don't know what you were doing earlier. The matter between you and Rong Xiaoling, from the time you started dating Xiao Lin until now, has been the subject of gossip outside. The gossip never stops. I feel so sorry for Xiao Lin. You're in the military. After all, you should be strict about relationships between men and women and your conduct in life. Don't you know these things? Qin Shuejing explained weakly. My relationship with Xiaoling is because her parents saved me. Later, both her parents passed away, leaving her all alone as a young girl. Here, it's truly pitiful. That's why the chief's anger flared up instantly. Does that mean Xiaolin deserves to be treated like this by you? Xiaolin lost both parents 2 years ago and is also all alone. If you really want to repay a favor, you should persuade Rong Xiaoling to find a reliable person to date, so that if she faces any grievances from her in-laws in the future, you can stand up for her. Instead, like this, all this pulling and dragging, so unclear. It's just wasting the prime years of these two young women. I'll be straight with you. Xiaolin is involved in a secret research project in the northern frontier and left on the 15th. You know the nature of it. She voluntarily agreed to the transfer, which means she's completely given up on you. Qin Shuejing was left speechless by the old commander's scolding, and his heart ached so much he could hardly breathe, leaving on the 15th. No wonder, given Lin Shu's personality. Even after being treated like that, she still insisted on waiting at the door to meet him. It turned out that was her last day before leaving. You don't need to inquire further, just sign the divorce agreement and submit it to the organization department. From now on, Captain Qin, you're on your own. Qin Shuejing closed his eyes, suppressing the sour sting in his eyes, and walked out the door in a daze. Echoing in his mind was the final question the commander had asked him. Regimental Commander Qin, given Lin Shu's character, do you really believe that Comrade Rong Xiaoling's incident was done by Xiaolin? By the sickbed, Qin Shuejing looked at Rong Xiaoling with a gloomy expression. Rong Xiaoling felt a bit uneasy and tentatively said, Brother Qin, why are you looking at me like that? Qin Shuejing spoke up. Xiaoling, I'm asking you very seriously. Was it really Lin Shu who scalded your arm? Upon hearing this, Rong Xiaoling's expression immediately changed. But remembering that every time something happened, as long as she played the victim, Brother Qin would always take her side without asking for reasons, she eased her mind. With a pitiful and aggrieved look, she said, Did Sister Lin Shu say something to you? It's all my fault. I spoke carelessly and upset her. Sister Lin Shu, she just poured boiling water on me. Brother Qin, please don't blame my sister because of this. My parents died early, so I have nothing to complain about. Upon hearing this, Qin Shui remained silent. Only his gaze towards Rong Xiaoling grew more obscure, until he stared Rong Xiaoling into a state of unease. Qin Shuejing finally spoke slowly. The military district has developed a new technology that can detect human fingerprints on objects. I happened to test it out, and the experts there told me that on this water bottle, there are only your fingerprints. Rong Xiaoling, I'm asking you one last time, who exactly did this? Rong Xiaoling had no defense to offer. A wave of panic suddenly broke through, and she cried out to Qin Shuejing, I did it myself. Brother Qin, please don't blame me. We grew up together, but ever since you got married, your heart has only been with Sister Lin Shu. Clearly, she was the one who came first. So why should all the good things be taken by Lin Shu? Qin Shuejing no longer softened at Rong Xiaoling's tears as he used to. Instead, he pressed the advantage and pursued the question. What about the incident of falling into the river? Rong Xiaoling said timidly. It was me. I was just too anxious and pushed a couple of times. I didn't expect Sister Lin Shu to lose her balance. Brother Qin, I was just too afraid of losing you, even though he had anticipated it, hearing the truth with his own ears. Qin Shuejing felt as if he had fallen into an icy abyss, his blood seeming to freeze throughout his body. The pain in my chest felt like a deep, raw gash, as if a knife had sliced it open, leaving a bloody, throbbing wound. My face was deathly pale as I turned towards Rong. Xiaoling said, Did you know that Lin Shu is pregnant, but because of the fall into the river, she had a miscarriage? Rong Xiaoling was frozen in place, terrified. She had only wanted to make her suffer, but never intended to cause her to lose her child. Qin Shuejing's eyes reddened. He turned away, unable to hold back the tears that fell uncontrollably, and said in a trembling voice, I was wrong. From the very beginning, the way we treated you and the way we treated Lin Shu was wrong. One wrong step leads to another. We grew up together, and it shouldn't have come to this. Rong Xiaoling, you are a murderer, and I am an accomplice. No, the mastermind. Qin Shuejing stood dazed in the alley outside his home. He stood at the mouth of the alley for a long time without moving a step. He was afraid to go home. Lin Shu had erased every trace of herself before leaving, and he had no idea how to face a completely empty home. "Sir, excuse me, please make way." The little old man pulling a cart behind him, collecting scrap, offered Qin Shuejing an apologetic smile. Only then did Qin Shuejing snap back to reality, instinctively stepping aside. His eyes scanning blankly before coming to a halt on a cardboard box in the corner of the cart. Qin Shuejing stopped the old man with the cart, clutching the cardboard box in his arms, and urgently asked the old man, "This cardboard box? These are my wedding photos with Lin Shu. Where did you get this from?" The little old man replied, "Just the day before yesterday, a lady in this alley sold it to me, saying she didn't want any of these things anymore. She said she divorced her husband and isn't coming back." The old man's words struck Qin Shuejing's most sensitive nerve, and he immediately raised his voice to retort, "No, it's not a divorce. There's no divorce, it's just a quarrel." Qin Shuejing urgently pulled out paper money from his pocket and handed it to the old man, buying the cardboard box back. Then he turned around, hugged the cardboard box, and jogged away without looking back, not even waiting for the change. He didn't dare to look back even once, as if that could cover up the peace. Pretending that nothing had happened, Lin Shu hadn't left yet. By the light of the tungsten bulb, Qin Shuejing carefully examined the contents of that cardboard box. In the wedding photo, the newlyweds sat side by side, smiling at the camera, full of anticipation for their future life together. Layered inside the cardboard box were the love letters he had written back in the day. He never expected Lin Shu had kept them all this time. One by one, he opened and read them, as if meeting Lin Shu all over again, meeting, falling in love, and then getting married. Qin Shuejing looked at the letters, laughing and crying, not sure where he had read up to. Qin Shuejing suddenly turned around with the letter in hand and said with a smile, "Lin Shu, do you remember Comrade Ju with the little braid we mentioned in the letters? She is now." Before he could finish his words, they caught in his throat, because behind Qin Shuejing, Lin Shu was no longer there. Lin Shu has already chosen to go to the secret scientific research in the northern frontier. Qin Shuejing knew in his heart that 8 years, 10 years, perhaps for a lifetime, Lin Shu would never return. Qin Shuejing's body trembled violently with grief, and he murmured, "Lin Shu, I miss you." 7 years later, at the Northern Frontier Research Base, watching the busy figure in front of me, I smiled somewhat sheepishly and said, "Senior, you don't have to think of giving me all the good stuff. This transfer is like a homecoming for me, and besides, aren't you coming along to teach as well? If I really need anything, I'll just ask you." Li Chengxi snorted, pretending to be angry as he complained to me, "I know you all too well. You're used to being independent. If you were really lacking something, you wouldn't ask for it, you'd definitely find a way to solve it yourself. I'd better bring everything for you, so I won't have to worry." I felt a bit awkward and exposed, so I didn't try to stop him, instead giving Li Chengxi a grateful smile. On the plane, I looked at the clear blue sky and couldn't help but recall the day I left 7 years ago. The sky was the same, but my state of mind was completely different. Li Chengxi, sitting next to me, seemed to sense that something was weighing on my mind and cautiously said, "I'm going back." Still teaching at the military district, you and he are bound to run into each other eventually. Let all those unpleasant things be in the past. Lin Shu, your senior brother hopes you can look forward. I took a deep breath, shook my head, and said with a light laugh, "Senior brother, don't worry about me." Although he never ended up signing that divorce agreement, the organization department, in our second, during the time we lived apart, my divorce application had already been approved. By all accounts, he and I have been divorced for 5 years. Since witnessing the mushroom cloud rising over the deserts of the northern frontier, nothing like love or affection has mattered to me anymore. Senior brother, you underestimate me. After getting off the plane, the welcoming party had been waiting for a long time. Conversation, placement, and the arrangement of teaching content. Everything proceeded in an orderly manner, and time slipped by unnoticed. Before I knew it, the first day of my teaching assignment had arrived. I stood outside the door, listening as the senior officer proudly introduced me to the officers in the audience. For this in-depth study session, the organization has specially assigned 2 experts to teach our comrades. Both are from northern Xinjiang. An outstanding contributor to the success of the explosion, young and promising. Now, let's welcome Dr. Lin Shu. Amid the enthusiastic applause, I pushed the door open and walked in. As soon as I entered, I felt a burning gaze fixed intently on me. It's Qin Shuejing. As if the suppressed, agonizing emotions could no longer be contained, the person he had thought about day and night for 7 years was now standing just inches away from him. Before him, she could smile, move, and speak. She was the living, breathing Lin Shu. Qin Shuejing stood up uncontrollably. With reddened eyes, he looked at me in disbelief and murmured, "Lin Shu, it had been 7 years since I left and 5 years since the divorce. I never expected that, upon meeting again, Qin Shuejing would lose control to this extent." My gaze swept over the epaulets on his uniform, and I smiled to ease the tension. It seems this comrade is quite enthusiastic about learning, so I won't spend more time on small talk. Please take a seat, and let's officially begin today's lesson. Qin Shuejing seemed to suppress his emotions and calm down, nodding silently as he sat. Throughout the class, his piercing gaze never disappeared. As soon as class ended, Qin Shuejing stopped me. I looked at the familiar face before me and spoke politely with a smile. "Brigade Commander Qin, long time no see. Is there something you didn't understand?" My obvious coldness and distance made Qin Shuejing somewhat distraught. He took a deep breath and slowly began to speak. "Lin Shu, I know you hate me. And I deserve it. I'm sorry. I know I made many mistakes back then, constantly misunderstanding you and giving up on you. I caused you a lot of pain, and I know it might be too late to say this now." I still just smile. To be honest, talking with Qin Shuejing about the past is like touching an old scar that has long since healed. It doesn't hurt, but it still remains, stark and prominent on the skin. Just a regret, that's all. It's okay, it's all in the past. I have something to do, I'll go first. I tossed out a farewell without saying anything more, watching Li Chengxi approach from a distance, and stepped forward to meet him. But in Qin Shuejing's eyes, forgiveness is harder to accept than hatred. Qin Shuejing lowered his head, the corners of his eyes reddening, his eyelashes trembling slightly. Suddenly, he gripped my wrist with force. I had never seen him like this before. In a humble tone, he pleaded with me, "We can't just let it end like this. I admit my way of repaying your kindness was a complete mess, mixing gratitude and love together. In the end, all it did was waste the lives of the 3 of us. But I truly realize my mistake. I've made it clear to Rong Qiaoling, and she has already left. Between us, there will be no one and nothing to stop me from running to you. I swear, I will treat you twice as well from now on, making up for the past, and never let you suffer any grievance again, Lin Shu. I beg you to give me another chance." I didn't respond, just broke free from Qin Shuejing's hand and walked away. "Teacher Lin, that Commander Qin is looking for you again. This time he brought something called roses. I heard they were brought over from Yunnan, and they're really beautiful." A colleague teased with a mocking expression. I looked up from the materials and rubbed the bridge of my nose in frustration. Li Chengxi, who was beside me, seemed to notice my irritation and approached to comfort me, saying, "Lin Shu, you just finished the report after staying up all night. Go get some proper rest first. I'll talk to him for you." I shook my head, took a sip of strong tea to refresh myself, and stood up, saying, "It's fine. He won't leave without seeing me." As soon as I stepped out, I saw Qin Shuejing waiting for me at the corner, holding a bouquet of bright roses. His smile was brighter than the blossoms. Seeing me approach, he jogged over eagerly. "I remember you always wanted to see what flowers from the south looked like. I went out of my way to get these for you. Do you like them?" I looked at the bouquet before me and fell silent. For the past 3 months, no matter how I reasoned with him or rejected him, Qin Shuejing seemed truly determined to start over with me. Flowers, clothes, and whatever is in fashion, he eagerly presents them before me. Qin Shuejing still uses the same old tricks he did when he was young to pursue me, sending all kinds of love letters, one after another. Seeing that I remained silent, Qin Shuejing nervously said, "Has something happened? You don't look very well." "It's okay. You don't need to feel pressured. You can continue to reject me. No matter what you say, I will never give up. If you don't like roses, I can give you Chinese roses, peonies, or something else. There's bound to be one you like." I reluctantly took the bouquet of roses and said to Qin Shuejing, "No, I really like roses. Thank you. I just stayed up too late last night and I'm a bit tired." This is the first time in a while that I've been willing to accept Qin Shuijing's gift. He was a bit flattered, even a little embarrassed, and said, "No, no need to thank me. I'm glad you like it, so I'll bring you more next time. By the way, didn't you say you were tired? Go back and rest. Go on. 2 new movies just came out at the cinema. I'll tell you about them tomorrow. The ticket is sent to you. It's up to you whether to go or not." Qin Shuijing blushed, looking as flustered as when we first spoke. I smiled for no reason and asked as if I had thought of something. "You said before that you bought back everything I had lost at the time. Do you still have those letters?" Qin Shuijing nodded vigorously. Yes, yes. I still have them, and the wedding photos, I've kept them all safe." I took a deep breath and said gently, "Do you remember that lake where we had our first date? Bring that cardboard box with you tomorrow afternoon. I have something to tell you." I walked away from the corner and bumped right into Li Chengxi. "Sorry, I didn't mean to eavesdrop. I was just worried something might happen to you. I heard from the nurse Xiaofang at the hospital that this Qin Shuijing used to treat you very badly. I see your attitude. Are you trying to start over?" "Lin Shu, don't misunderstand me. I don't want to interfere with any of your decisions. I just don't want you to get hurt again." I smiled at Li Chengxi, looking into his concerned and passionate eyes. What else is unclear? Whether it's Qin Shuijing or Li Chengxi, avoiding things has never been a good choice. I just want to cut the Gordian knot quickly. How could I not know? I understand that you, senior brother, have my best interests at heart. All these years, whether in the northern borderlands or here, you have treated me better than anyone possibly could, senior. I know how you feel. You like me. So, do you want to be with me?" Even at his current mature age, Li Chengxi blushed like a flustered young man upon hearing such direct words from the one he loved. He scratched his head somewhat sheepishly and pondered for a moment, but in the end, he shook his head. Li Chengxi's expression was shy yet serious. "I don't want to. I'm not foolish. I can tell you don't like me. You've seen the clouds of the northern frontier, witnessed the sky of today. You're independent, strong, smart, and beautiful. You're a free bird, and I don't want to cage you. I only hope you can fly safely and happily." His eyes glistened with tears as he met my gaze, the love within them overflowing. He spoke as if making a vow. "If you call me Shixiang, I will always be your Shixiang. If you are willing to call me Li Chengxi, I will always be your Li Chengxi." The lake shimmered with ripples, and by the time I arrived, Qin Shuijing had already been waiting for a long time. He held the cardboard box and walked toward me. "Lin Shu, I've brought the things." Qin Shuijing handed me the letter in his hand and said guiltily, "And this, it's a letter from Qiaoling to you. She heard you were back and had someone send this over. After you left back then. The miscarriage, we all found out. She feels terribly sorry for you. It's also my fault all these years for making her unable to distinguish between dependence and love. She said she made a serious mistake and acted too radically in the past. 7 years ago, she already applied to go to the forest farm." I slowly unfolded that letter, which contained Rong Qiaoling's confession and tears. After I left, she wasn't as happy as she had imagined. She was just too afraid of losing. Her parents entrusted her to Qin Shuijing's care, making her believe that Qin Shuijing was her entire world. My presence made her hysterically twisted, as if her only support had been snatched away. Until my miscarriage, my departure, she realized that her appearance was repulsive, like a madwoman, a criminal. This shouldn't be the case. Neither her parents nor she herself had hoped to raise such a Rong Qiaoling. She owes me an apology. She should atone for her sins. I traveled far to the northern frontier to support the nation's prosperity through scientific research, while she willingly spent her life enduring the harsh cold of the forest farm, guarding the borderlands. Sister Lin Shu, I have made too many mistakes, but I have nothing to compensate you with. I can only follow in your footsteps and do something that makes you feel meaningful. Sister, I no longer envy you. I want to be you, Forest Ranger Rong Qiaoling, with respect, watching this. My eyes grew a little moist. The thin letter seemed to carry the scent of the forest farm's wind and snow. She has grown up, seeing the tears in my smile. Qin Shuijing couldn't help but be moved as well. I've missed you so much these 7 years you've been away. I also deeply regret not cherishing you properly back then and breaking the promises I made to you when we got married. If it weren't for those things, perhaps our child would already be in elementary school. I've made up my mind. If you don't come back, I'll probably spend the rest of my life missing you and walking this path alone, so, could you please give me one more chance? Please believe me, this time I will definitely make you happy. I didn't say anything, but instead buried my head in the cardboard box, rummaging through it, finally brushing away the dust from the envelope beneath layers of letters. Found it. That was the letter Qin Shuijing wrote to me when he first confessed. Full of the innocence and sincerity of youth, looking at the familiar handwriting, I couldn't help but smile. I began to read aloud, Comrade Lin Shu, I implore you not to accept Comrade Jiang from Class 3's confession. He may seem decent on the surface, but he has a habit of heavy drinking in private. And, he will not be good to you. I hope you will be my girlfriend. I promise to respect you, cherish you, and always treat you well. If I fail to do so, please do not hesitate to leave me. Do not look back, do not soften your heart, because no matter what, I hope Comrade Lin Shu lives a happy life. I looked at this letter, my eyes also welling up. I said with a choked voice, I can't promise you, because the 19-year-old Qin Shuijing told me not to look back. Qin Shuijing was stunned for a moment, then immediately understood what I meant. Tears began to roll down from his eyes. He was laughing and crying at the same time, looking somewhat disheveled. Still, he forced himself to stay composed and said to me, Sorry, Lin Shu, I understand. Under the warm winter sun, I turned and walked away in the opposite direction. A familiar figure was waiting for me on the other side of the lake. I raised my arm, and that figure ran toward me. I called out to him loudly, Li Chengxi. 19-year-old Qin Shuijing would never let 18-year-old Lin Shu suffer the slightest grievance. 18-year-old Lin Shu also believed that 19-year-old Qin Shuijing would bring her happiness. But now I am 30 years old, and I am leaving. That's all for today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave a comment below. See you in the next video.